All right, now this comes from Southern Poverty Law Center, their Hate Watch division. And SPLC has become the primary agency in this country. And it's run on contributions also, and I believe a few grants from various sources. But the piece that I want to share with you was put together by Rachel Goldwasser, and the title is Extremism Among Active Duty Military and Veterans Remains a Clear and Present Danger, which it does. And she writes that a few days ago, I think it was, it was yesterday, October 13th. There was a congressional hearing by the Committee on Veterans Affairs, and the subject of the hearing was violent domestic extremist groups and the recruitment of veterans. And that hearing, I didn't see it, but I've seen a couple of excerpts from it on C-SPAN, and it highlighted the dangers of extremism in the military. Now, this is nothing new. This is an issue that activists and academics have been warning about for decades. When you have an all-volunteer force where there's no conscription, your pool of recruits, just by the simple laws of math or social, social science, all of that means that your pool of possible recruits keeps shrinking. And the people who start signing up are people who are in it for the violence, not in it from a patriotic standpoint, but in it because they will have a license to kill and destroy. Kyle Bibby, he's a Marine veteran and national campaign manager for something called Common Defense. Now, that is a progressive, that means left-leaning grassroots veterans organization. And he told Hate Watch, Mr. Kibbe did, that there's a need for action. Kibbe said that extremism in the military is, quote, definitely present. I've had conversations with enlisted guys about it, particularly since I've gotten out, end quote. Now, according to Bibby, sometimes the problem can be severe. When it is, it puts service members in an unsafe environment. I mean, they're in the military. How could you be in an unsafe environment in the military unless you're in combat? Well, it's because of these fascist, extremist groups of white people who want to overthrow the government. He said, he shared the story of a Common Defense member. Now remember, that's his organization, Grassroots Veterans Organization. A Common Defense member, a Jew who had active neo-Nazis in his unit, and how he had to deal with that. And Bibby said, quote, I don't think the military takes it seriously, but again, they are a reflection of our greater society not taking it seriously. Hopefully January 6th would have made that more clear. Extremist groups also have blatantly attempted to recruit active duty military and veterans. These groups have used flyers, online platforms, rallies in their efforts to sign people up. And Bibby said there's an active effort to recruit in the military. Bibby went on to say this, quote, there are two things that happen. Either people are already involved in these groups, and then they join the military with the forethought and purpose of being trained militarily, so that way they can fight the great white war of the future. The great white war of the future. Holy God. He goes on, they're young and impressionable. They haven't really gone anywhere, and they just end up coming across the right person who tells them what they want to hear and uses their vulnerabilities to make them believe in this lie of white supremacy, end quote. Now, it's not just Bibi who talks about this. Some other experts are echoing and expanding on his analysis. For example, here's one Dr. Pete Simi. He's a sociology professor who researches right-wing extremism, and he told Hate Watch that there are various causes as to why current and former members of the military join these hate groups and why they're targeted to be convinced to join. Professor Simi pointed to two reasons that extremist groups recruit individuals with military backgrounds. I'm sure you can guess what they are. One is the cachet that comes from having members in your group of haters with military experience. Simi said, if you have people like that in your group, it's kind of a reputation builder, a way to enhance your collective identity. And the other, he said, is the strategic aspect. He said extremist groups need people with leadership training, skills in the use of general weapons and explosives. Now, militias in particular mirror their membership structure around military ranks. You've seen these half-witted morons with their big beer bellies and their dumb shit looking thrown together military style gear that they don't know how to use. They don't know the proper way to present themselves. So they dress up in pretend military outfits. And then they give their members titles that are typically reserved for legitimate military personnel. These militias and white supremacist groups also use, and you know this paramilitary training where they go out in the woods and pretend like they're being attacked by trees or some shit. The U.S. Army describes this as part of basic training, where soldiers, quote, begin learning the tactical skills they will need to be successful on the battlefield, end quote. Now, culturally, the two environments, according to Hate Watch, also share a tendency toward this hyper-masculinity bullshit. You've seen these guys. Oh, my God. Military and these neo-Nazi groups in the United States both tend to be male-dominated places with rigid gender roles that venerate traditional masculinity. That's according to Professor Simi. He said, quote, it's that familiarity that people are often so comfortable with and are looking for, end quote. And that fact, the way it's structured, can make militias attractive to former or soon-to-be former military members. I have heard that there is something about the military lifestyle once you're in it, especially if you have, well, not especially, but also if you've gone through combat, there is a bond that they feel that civilians are not entitled to share. So the paramilitary movement in this country, when they go after the weak-brained ex-members of the military who were that way before they joined, it's not that the military made them weak-brained, but the militia recruiters go after people like that and say, look, you're out of the military, but you can come here, be with us, and you can live that lifestyle again. Well, bingo. Now, the former lead analyst for domestic terrorism, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, a guy named Daryl Johnson, described for Hate Watch the phenomenon of paramilitary structures giving these former service members, like I just said, a place to belong. He said, quote, just comrades in arms belonging to a group where people are out doing field training exercises. Paramilitary training activity gives them that sense of camaraderie, end quote. Yeah. I can remember a time when being part of a bowling league gave you that kind of camaraderie. Boy, have things changed. Also, members with military experience are also uniquely suited to these leadership positions because they know the language, they know some of the tactics, and that can help these domestic terror organizations run more efficiently. Now, Mr. Johnson, the former lead analyst for U.S. Department of Homeland Security, he said all these things boost the violent capabilities of extremists and also can increase their lethality as well as make them much more sophisticated than what they normally would be, end quote. And that's another reason that they go after soldiers or soon-to-be former soldiers or Marines or just former military people. It's because these paramilitary, these militia types understand they're a bunch of fucking yahoos that couldn't find their asses with both hands and a compass. But they want to play like they're men. They want to pretend, even though most of them never served in the military and wouldn't. I mean, they would lose their freedom, right? Huh? So they try to attract soldiers and ex-soldiers in order to give them that cover as though they too are military. And take away from them this amateurish bullshit of running around the woods with their big, fat, bouncy bellies trying to pretend like they're being attacked by trees. Now, these extremists also can exploit and distort military members' and veterans' sense of patriotism. The former domestic terror expert at Homeland Security said that there is a notion among right-wing extremists, particularly the militias, that they're doing what they're doing for a patriotic cause or extreme forms of nationalism. And that matches up very well with people who volunteer for the military in many instances, yes. Patriotic. Wow. Then you have this nationwide anti-government militia that it is comprised, as far as I'm concerned, with some of the most psychologically disturbed people in the country, Oath Keepers. It's led by U.S. Army veteran Stuart Rhodes, and they energetically target active duty soldiers and veterans, along with law enforcement, by specifically appealing to their patriotism and the oath they took to protect the country. I mean, I have to stop and catch my breath. Now, Daryl Johnson, terrorism expert for Homeland Security, he co-authored a report for the Department of Homeland Security in 2009, a report on right-wing extremism. And that report issued a dire warning. It said this, quote, "The return of military veterans facing significant challenges reintegrating into their communities could lead to the potential emergence of terrorist groups or lone wolf extremists capable of carrying out violent attacks." Hasn't that happened? The emergence of terrorist groups? Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.